I would love for you to listen to this CD and tell me what you think. So he handed me a CD of Taylor and I stuck it in the rental car and I listened. And when I got back to the airport, I said, there's something about this girl. I said, the vocals are okay. I said, but the songwriting is undeniable. So that's how I first was introduced to Taylor. And then they said, look, take her out, teach her the radio business, teach her that side of the business. And the two of us together, we connected. And 6 months after that, her family asked me to be her manager. Her focus, her determination, her work ethic, her ability to identify opportunity, some of the things that we did early on, no other artist was doing. No one was staying after shows and meeting fans. No one was using this new technology called MySpace. Yeah. You're an artist. If you want people to discover you, you have to put yourself in front of them.
So back in 2006, the way to build a community and the way to succeed was different. If you were to launch an artist today, how would you do it?
First, you would have to...
You listen to the Asa Park Podcast.
The Asa Park Podcast.
How did you first meet Taylor Swift?
So Taylor was introduced to me through the record company. I was in radio, and I got offered a job to work for Big Machine Records. And Scott Borchetta flew me out to Nashville and said, hey, listen, on your way back to the airport, I would love for you to listen to this CD and tell me what you think. So he handed me a CD of Taylor and I stuck it in the rental car and I listened. And when I got back to the airport, I said, there's something about this girl. I said, the vocals are okay. I said, but the songwriting is undeniable. So that's how I first was introduced to Taylor. And then when I took the job at the record label, they said, listen, I want you to take her and her mom out. I had created the first ever radio tour where artists actually got paid. And they said, look, take her out, teach her the radio business, teach her that side of the business. And the two of us together, we connected. And 6 months after that, her family asked me to be her manager. And that's how I ended up as her manager. I had never managed an artist before. I had never thought about wanting to manage an artist before. It just happened to work.
But what is, like you said, that there was just something about her. I guess the songwriting, of course. But when you met her, why is Taylor Swift different? What makes her different?
I was thinking about this when I was driving home today. I was in the car. Her focus, her determination, her work ethic, her ability to identify opportunity, some of the things that we did early on, no other artist was doing. No one was staying after shows and meeting fans. No one was using this new technology called MySpace at the time to just, here's this group of people that are sitting on the social media platform all over the world. And she decided to show up and start having conversations. And she also started listening. She started hearing their stories, and then she started sharing her music that had something to do with their stories. And now all of a sudden this connection was made, and then she just exploded after that. So it's like, I think one of the things that's important for artists to understand is that you don't need everyone to be successful. You need your people. And she went out and found her people. It was that young teenage female that was going through the same things that she was going through. She just happened to know how to turn those emotions into songs.
Yeah. And what you're talking about there, of course, is community.
Correct.
But back then, we're talking mid 2000s. Community, was that a new thing back then?
It was.
The way you saw it?
It was. I mean, there were these things called chat rooms, certain websites would have a chat room where people could come in and chat. But MySpace became the first worldwide online community for discovery, where people could just share something that they liked with a total stranger, and that person could then come and, as it was called in MySpace, become your friend. And then once they became your friend, everything that you would post, they would see. And community, it's like I tell people today, especially, is that the consumer does not have to pay to consume your product. Music's free, videos are free. This YouTube that you're watching right now is free. What people are ultimately going to invest in is the relationship, and then, of course, the community. everyone wants to be a part of community. Everyone wants to feel like they're accepted. And she allowed them to feel that.
Yeah. This is because it's a very abstract thing. How could you, is it possible even to try to make it more concrete? Like, what specifically did she do that nobody else did? You mentioned staying after shows. I feel like I've seen that. I don't remember exactly in 2006, 2007, but I feel like that's not like, okay, now you're the greatest artist, arguably of all time.
No, but what happened is that, so let's go back to that time. Let's go back to the early 2000s. You would go to a club and you would see a band, and that band may stay after and sign merchandise. Maybe 20, 30 people would stay after and get to know the band, and they would have an email sign-up list, and you would get on their email list, and then they would just go and promote to you. Taylor started doing it with thousands of people at a time. But what would happen is those people would go and take pictures with her and then share that on their social media platforms. So now other people were like, okay, when I go to the show, I'm going to stay later because I want to meet this girl. And I think what she did, which there's one thing for a fan to know that they're being seen. She made them feel like they were being seen. It's one thing to be a fan of Pearl Jam. Like, I was a big fan of Pearl Jam, but Eddie Vedder had no clue who I was. I was a fan of Soundgarden. They had no clue who I was. But Taylor made it feel like when they would walk up in line and she would say, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. I love your eyes. Let's take a picture. Let me sign your shirt. That's what the difference was, is she made them feel noticed.
Yeah. And in your opinion, was it real, or was she just
no, it's very
a brilliant salesperson?
No, she is a brilliant salesperson, but it's also very real because she's been able to continue to do this for the last 20 years. People still feel seen. When they're at her shows, they feel seen. They feel part of a community. When she acknowledges people back, they feel seen. So no, it was just something that she was naturally gifted with doing. She loves people. And you can tell when it's fake, when people are just feeling like they're forced to be out there to meet people. But this girl would stay after 3-4 hours. We would be out there signing autographs. And then the next day when she wakes up, she would be on social media talking to them. And then she would do her show. And then she would stay after and sign autographs. And then she would answer comments. And I mean, this is something that she loved doing that other artists started to try to do. But you could tell it wasn't having the same impact because they felt like they were forced to get to know their fans, and she wanted to get to know her fans.
Yeah.
This is truly a great one. And if you want me to have on more guests like this, I need your help. So if you want to support the channel and help what I'm doing and trying to build over here, subscribe to the show, follow the show. That's the only thing I will ever ask you for. Now, back to the episode.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people can relate to this, probably musicians who are bitter almost. I have friends who are musicians, and they're almost bitter because they feel like we started to do music because we wanted to make music and perform music. But today we have to be 80% media agency and 20% musicians.
Here's the thing. They don't have to be. They could choose to be and reap the rewards of it. But if they feel that they have to do it, the fans get that. They feel that as well. And I think that's the difference between doing something as a hobby and doing something as a business. Because as a business, you better get to know your consumer very, very well if you want to stay in business, because there's no shortage of artists. There's no shortage of talent. The internet has shown us that there are millions of artists all over the world that are putting up music every single day. But if they feel a connection to a specific artist, and they obviously feel a connection to her, that can make all the difference in the world. And I tell artists, you could do this business however you choose to do this business. You just better manage your expectations on what you expect. Don't expect to have thousands of raving fans if you're just showing up periodically to tell people you have a new album that's out, or a new song that's out, or you need them to, pre-save your song, and then they don't hear from you for another 6 weeks until you release the next song. That's just wrong. Now, obviously, Taylor, Beyonce, Bruno Mars, the biggest stars in the world right now don't have to spend as much time on social media, but that's because they've been doing this for 15 to 20 years and that fan base
Yeah.
has now grown up with them and they understand it. But if you're a new artist starting today, use the tools, use the resources that are available to you. Most of them are free, but you've got to, you don't have to do anything, but those who shift the mindset and treat it like a business and see that without those fans, they have nothing, they are the ones that are going to win, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I think their feelings are, and you mentioned Pearl Jam and Eddie, like they didn't have to do that and still be the biggest bands in the world. So times are indeed changing, and they,
Yes.
and they are probably like I agree with you 100%. And I tell them that okay, boohoo. Boohoo. Yeah, like that's the truth. Like, so what you gonna do about it? Like sit there and cry? Nobody will care. So either you have to learn TikTok and adapt to this new world, or you will have no fans and you will play shows for nobody, and you have to have a different job. And you can still make music, as you mentioned. You
Absolutely.
can make music, have fun, but nobody will care.
But
or
see-
maybe your mom, maybe some of your friends.
I'm
but
not
nobody
sure
else.
how old you are, but I'm 58 years old. The only way I knew who a band was back when I was probably your age is if I heard them on the radio, I saw them on television, or I saw them on tour. That was it. Or if a friend happened to go to college and see this cool band called the Dave Matthews Band and would come back to our town and share with us this
Oh,
cool
yes.
band that they met,
Yeah.
Discovery today happens in so many different places in so many different ways. So Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam, they were popular because they were on MTV. They were popular because they were on the radio. They were popular because you saw them on television, on the late night talk shows. They were popular because they were playing big shows, big arenas, and that was the only way you could connect with that band, was actually being at a show. But you never really connected with them. You saw them, but did you really connect with them? No, now social media allows you to connect with your audience. And what I tell people too is I said, look at it like this. You don't have to travel the world. You don't have to get an airline ticket. You don't have to find a promoter to put you on stage. But every night you could go on Instagram and meet people from all over the world and share your music with them. How cool is that?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
magic.
And me coming from Norway, like
Yes.
the only way I can see it here, and I can talk to you
That's right.
in the US, and I wouldn't have been able to do that 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So now I can reach the world.
And you would have had no
While-
idea who I was to want to reach out
Exactly.
to me for us to have this conversation. But
Yeah.
you obviously saw something online. You saw something on social. Maybe you heard my podcast. Maybe you saw a video. Maybe you saw a social media post. And that's what led us to where we are today, is we used technology the way that technology is supposed to be used. You messaged me through technology. We're recording this video through technology. So I tell people, technology is your friend. It's not the enemy. It's your friend.
Yeah. And when we're on this topic, AI, like there's a lot of people are struggling with this, but I think that, well, I want to hear your opinion first. Like, what your thoughts first? What do you think of AI in music? Because as you mentioned, technology is here to stay. AI is here to stay.
Yes. It's basically a tool. Once again, how do you want to use this tool? Okay. Do you want to use it for marketing? Do you want to use it to help you understand your audience better? It has more information it can get access to information at a much faster speed in which I can Google things or even think of the things that I want it to do. Now, if you're a musician and you want to record your own songs, congratulations. If you're a musician and you want it to be pure, congratulations. That's your choice. Everyone has a choice. I don't tell someone whether they should use it or should not use it. All I say is, what do you want to use it for? Whatever it is that you want to use it for, then you have to learn how to use it. And it's up to you whether you want to tell people, hey, I used AI on this. But I mean, it's completely up to you. But I know the people are like, well, it's going to take the human element out of it. Here's the human element that AI doesn't have. this conversation you and I are having right now.
Yeah.
The touch, the connection. It can come up with really cool emails that I may send you that get you to want to have a conversation with me. But at some point, we have to have a conversation. And I think where people miss the point, especially the musicians, is when a consumer hears a song that impacts them emotionally. The first thought that goes through the consumer's mind is not, I wonder if that's AI. They're like, no, this lyric touched me. This beat made me want to move. They don't care how it was created. They just care that it had an impact on them. But I also think that the people that argue with technology, they're the ones that are just looking for any kind of excuse to justify why no one's listening to their music or no one's following on socials. They're just using it as another excuse of why something's not happening. When that's AI is not stopping anyone from building a relationship, from recording music, from releasing music, from selling merchandise. AI is not holding you back from doing any of that.
No, that is true. But I guess the thing that leave a bad taste in, and I don't think it does that in my mouth, but in a lot of people's mouth, is the fact that being a musician is indeed more and more about being a brand and being a market, like a media agency of sorts.
Correct.
And that is like I haven't made up my mind, I guess, yet about how I feel about that. We're not at that place yet, but I think that that's where we're heading. I think that the world, this is my prediction, is that in maybe even 10, 20 years, I think we will have like it will be brands. It will be people who are like celebrities that are mostly famous for being funny or pretty on social media. And you will have legacy artists. And this is where I think the biggest growth will come, because I think it's not the last time we've heard a new Beatles song.
Right.
I think the people, the private equity firms that have bought because they haven't just bought the rights for the Queen catalog, they've also bought the rights for the Queen brand.
Right.
And when they can, and of course they won't be stupid enough to say AI has made a new Queen song from scratch, because nobody will listen to that because of the it being AI. What they will do, they will be much smarter about that. They will say that we found this tiny snippet of a Freddie Mercury recording that has never yet been heard.
They just did that with John Lennon and the Beatles, and it got nominated for a Grammy. But I think what'll happen is people will listen to it out of curiosity. Remember just months ago where that quote unquote fake AI band that all of a sudden got 500,000 monthly listeners? It was based out of curiosity. That was a brilliant brand strategy play. But the one thing that I tell artists, if you want to treat it like a business, look at McDonald's. McDonald's has to advertise. McDonald's has to be on social media. McDonald's has to hire an ad agency. What's the difference? Well, you're an artist. If you want people to discover you, you have to put yourself in front of them. So you can either learn how to do this stuff yourself. And if you don't want to do it, that's okay. Hire someone to do it.
Yeah.
But then don't get pissed off because you have to spend money. All businesses have to spend money. Why musicians think that they're different just because they created it and it's their art and no one cares. No one cares. So it's like, if you want to be a business, treat it like a business. If you want to make music because you love music, make music because you love music. Post or don't post. Put it out or don't put it out. But don't complain that the world is against you because it's not appreciating the art that you created. It's you're the one who's excited about it. You have to get me excited about it. Complete stranger who loves your style of music, drop it in front of me. Let me know a little bit about you. I mean, look at all these television shows. Before you hear a song on American Idol or America's Got Talent or The Voice, you hear a story. I just think musicians today need to become better storytellers. They're storytellers in their songs, but they're not really good storytellers at getting people to want to listen to those songs. And that's what I do. I try to help artists become better storytellers, because I'm like, hey, if you have a song that can impact the world, it's your responsibility to get them to find you. It's not their responsibility to find you. You have to get them to find you.
And that's interesting what you said there. And I think, because when you think about some of the biggest artists, it was Louis Capaldi, it was Ed Sheeran, even all of them, they had, when they broke, they had this story. There was always like, it was often the standard stories, like I've had this rough upbringing and I've fought, like I have all odds stacked against me.
People love
and then
the
all
underdog.
of a sudden exactly. But it's probably, of course, parts of it is true. But it's, the volume is turned up to 11, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And I think, that's, and if we go back to Taylor again, we briefly talked about the very beginning, but how did you work this with her, like the storytelling?
The story that she was telling was the emotion of what it was like being a teenager. And there were millions and millions and millions of teenagers that were feeling left out, not being in the in crowd, not being popular, not having a boyfriend, all the different emotions that a teenage girl goes through. Taylor was going through those emotions. So that's what she was sharing about. And she was letting them know that you're not alone. And I wrote this song when he cheated on me. I wrote this song when I was left out or didn't feel like I was a part of. And once again, it goes back to the word you used earlier, community. They wanted to feel that they were part of a community with like-minded girls that weren't the popular girls, that were the ones being picked on for being different. Taylor was different. And she said, I'm very different. I'm like you. I'm not the popular girl. I am the awkward girl. I am the one that gets made fun of. I am the one that the boys aren't interested in. I am the one that had a boyfriend who cheated on me. I am you. And that's why they've connected with her and grown up with her. And I mean, heck, she just sold 3.5 million CDs, and probably 3 million of those people don't even own a CD player anymore.
No.
But they bought a CD or they bought vinyl because they feel connected to her.
Yeah, at this point, she's the biggest music brand, arguably, that we've ever seen on a global scale.
I agree with that.
And that's interesting. She was a country musician in the beginning.
Correct.
And this is a big hit records. What was the name of Big Machine Records? Exactly. And was that a country?
It was a country label. It was a small independent label at the time, distributed by Universal. But what Big Machine did, because Taylor was originally signed to a development deal by Sony Music, one of the biggest conglomerates in the world. But Big Machine, Scott Borchetta said, I will allow you to write your own songs, which was unheard of at the time, because Nashville is packed with some of the best songwriters in the world. So they would take the best songs, give them to Carrie Underwood. Carrie Underwood didn't write any of her songs in the beginning. Martina McBride didn't write any of her songs in the beginning. Faith Hill didn't write any of her songs in the beginning. So here comes this little girl that wants to write her own songs. And Scott said, I will allow you to write your own songs. And that was unheard of at that time. And that's what made her want to be at that label. She didn't care how big the label was. She cared that they were allowing her and giving her permission to be herself, which a lot of people at that time, they said all the females were manufactured. They would just go to the studio with a great producer and the songs were written for them and they would auto-tune everything. And she just came out and said, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is me.
Yeah, what a genius move, and like a visionary almost, because as you mentioned, back then, like we just came out of an era where a lot of the biggest artists in the world, they were often female and they were indeed manufactured, like Britney Spears. It's someone who comes to mind. And then she wrote everything herself. She had a co-writer, right?
She had a lot of co-writers. Yeah, like Liz Rose was one of her early co-writers. Robert Ellis Sorrell was one of her early co-writers, but she would pretty much show up with the idea, the song's practically finished, and then they would move some things around or say, this verse isn't good enough, let's make this verse better and things like that. But yeah, she's been co-writing the whole time. But the songs, all the songs that she released, she played a part in. And that was not
and to this day.
Time. Yes, to this day. And what's interesting too, is that if you recall, back in the early days, the only people that were really writing their own music consistently were the bands. The bands would
Yeah.
go in the studio together and they would take a week and live at a house and they would write the record, record the record. But all the pop songs were usually written by someone else. But the rock songs were usually written by the band. And that's why the rock bands were the ones able to sell out those arenas, because those people felt connected to the band because the band wrote the songs. And then you had a bunch of one-hit wonders. Those one-hit wonders were usually artists that were singing somebody else's song, and they had a one-time success with it. Diane Warren wrote it, or somebody else kind of wrote it. But the rock bands were the ones that were able to create legacy. You know,
Yes.
Journey
This is
wrote all
interesting.
their own
Yeah.
songs. Queen wrote, their own, all these different. Now, as they got bigger, other songwriters started coming in. Elton John, it was him and Bernie Taupin. It's like they weren't accepting songs from outside songwriters. Bernie wrote the lyrics, Elton created the melodies and the music, and boom, now you've got Elton John, one of the biggest stars in the world. It wasn't until that singer-songwriter started coming along. That's why Ed Sheeran, I think, has such great success, because not only does he write songs for himself, he writes songs for other people. He's got to write a hit, But I looked at it, I was just thinking, it's like, wow, the bands were the only ones, and if you looked at it, all the writers were all the 5 members of the Rolling Stones, or it was Paul McCartney and John Lennon wrote all the Beatles songs. They weren't getting songs pitched to them by other outside writers at that particular time.
Yeah, this is an interesting theory that and we saw a shift. There's probably several. I know there's several reasons why we saw a shift from bands to more individual artists. One of them being the costs of
Correct.
Like recording a band is way too costly, especially when you could just use a laptop and a microphone and churn out like the Grammy Awards, essentially.
Hello, Billie Eilish. Her and Phineas recorded that record in their bedroom.
But something else happened too that I haven't talked about, thought about, that you mentioned right there, was that because of this shift, the artists got forced to writing their own songs, because the labels could now, like, why should we go for this pretty like Milli Vanilli when we can go with someone like Taylor Swift, who also look good and she's sweet, she has a personality, and she can also write. And so when it got so easy to record, people could show their skills. Maybe it was easier to see through people. Maybe if you're a good writer.
I know what you're saying. It was more authentic when the songs were written by the artist. You could tell that they were captured. Now, there's really great storytellers. I mean, country music, George Strait, he had 50 #1 songs and never wrote any of them, but he was a great storyteller. There are those people that could tell great stories. But if you go back and you look at all the R&B songs, those were usually written by a production team. There was a producer, a lyricist. They wrote these songs. They would give it to that R&B band. They would give it to that pop band. People were writing songs for Elvis Presley. It was like, I think today there's such this thing about authenticity. I think authenticity is the new credibility. Because before, unless you were looking at the liner notes, you never really knew. And now it's so big to know who the songwriters are and who the producers are. And everybody's into knowing that stuff now.
Yeah. At the same time, trying to play the devil's advocate here.
Please.
I feel like we've never seen longer credits lists for songs.
Oh,
in
I
history.
agree.
So and often the artists, they're in the credit list, but I'm not so sure.
No, you're correct.
Diplo is releasing songs every week. I'm not so sure he's in the sessions for all those songs. Maybe he's like adjusting a snare. But
here's what happens now is an artist goes in. You may have 3 or 4 different producers. This producer may bring just this little part of the beat. This person may have given one line in the lyric. This person may have showed up with the melody. You listen to pop songs, there's 7, 8, 9, 10 sometimes people that are listed on those songs. If they use a sample from another artist, you have to give writing credit to the people who originally did that sample. So you may see 4 names on there that were never in the room because they wrote the song 20 years ago that person borrowed. The artist may come in and say, hey, I'm going to sing this song and I'm a very popular artist. I want writing credit on it, and may or may not have ever written a single word. That's happening all the times now too. They're also asking for publishing. But once again, the way that we discover music is through our ears. We hear a song. Does it connect with us? Does it trigger an emotion? It's not till after that initial impact that it has on me that I then go say, man, I wonder who the writers were on this. Wow, I wonder who produced this. That's not how we hear it. We hear it on a Spotify playlist. There is no DJ that lists the 9 writers and who the producer was. It's just, they don't even tell you who the artist is. You hear a song that either connects with you or it doesn't connect with you. And if it connects with you and then you go searching, that's when you get to find out all this other cool stuff.
Yeah. But you left Taylor, or Taylor left you. What
I left
happened there?
Taylor in 2008. My last year with her, I was on the road 187 days. I weighed almost 300 pounds. I was having health issues, and my daughter was 6 and my son was 4. And I'm like, all right, God, what's the plan? I'm going to see more money than I've ever seen in my life, but is it going to go out in alimony and child support? Am I going to end up divorced? So because my dream was never to be a manager, it was a real easy decision for me to make. And I called her and I said, listen, when I land in Nashville, let's go to lunch. And I told her I'll forever be grateful. I'll, always be one of your biggest fans, but I'm going to end up dead or divorced. I don't know, or both, So I said, this is something. So I worked an additional 5 months, and then I relocated my family to Nashville, and I ran into her like a year and a half later, and we spotted each other, and she came darting over in a big hug. Howard's Jill, how's the kids? There was no animosity. There was no devilish breakup. There was no anything like that. It was just, and I tell people this, I had taken Taylor about as far as I could take her having zero experience. I'm great at the development side of things. I love the beginning. I love coming up with cool ideas, cool marketing ideas. I never wanted to be the biggest manager that had the biggest artist. No, I love the early development stages, and that's what I do now. I help people set their businesses up. I help people find their audience. I teach them how to market. I teach them how to use social media so that they don't have to spend all day doing it, so that they still can be in the studio when they want to be in the studio, but they still give their songs a chance to be heard and be found by the right people.
Yeah. And who did she go to when
they created their own management company. They didn't go to another.
The family did her, because from what I understand, her parents, were they very much involved?
They're still very much involved. And I don't think that Taylor Swift would be who she is today if her family wasn't very much involved. They are very smart business people, and no one will do as much for the artist as someone who's connected by birth to that artist. They blood. Right. So what they did is they just hired good people around them. They brought in Robert Allen, who's an amazing person. They brought in Frank Bell, who understood radio. So they built a team around her. And that's what I was. I was part of a team. It's like, yes, I was her manager per se, but we were all doing it together. We all had our roles. And now 13 Management is her management company, and she has people that work for her. She's the boss, but she has people that work for her in those specific roles. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. 100%. And impressive and inspiring, all of those things. Something there that I've thought a bit about. And you work for Big Machine after, right, too?
I consulted Big Machine afterwards, and I still have a relationship with them. And I went to work for Sony after that and consulted other major labels as well, yes.
Yeah, because the whole dispute with Taylor and Big Machine, we have to go there. And because it's an interesting case, and how I think this at least got portrayed in the media, because Taylor was very good at telling her side of the story.
Correct.
It was that Scooter Braun bought the rights, or Big Machine sold the rights to Scooter without consulting her first, or they had some discussions, and then all of a sudden the deal was done. She got upset, and from that, she created this narrative of her being opposed the music machine, and no pun intended, big machine, but like she's the underdog, the girl who got tricked into signing a terrible deal, and that all this is the big music industry is dark and evil, and they are essentially tricking people. And Scooter Braun and Big Machine, Scott Borchetta, as you mentioned, became the faces of the evil music industry, and Taylor is the glowing hero.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts about all this?
Well, I mean, the thing is this, is that the first deal that any artist signed, Taylor came to a record company as a complete unknown. Most artists come to a record company as a complete unknown. So the person that's going to take the risk is the label. The label is the bank. So the person that funds the operation owns the masters. That's just the way that the music business works. It's like, I live in my house, but the bank still owns my house. Until I pay this, I can say it's my house and come over to my house, but it's not my house. It's the bank's house, because the bank is the one who put up the money. Now, after I pay the bank back, now I own the house. It's called recoupment in the music business. So I don't know what Taylor's structure was. Taylor had a record deal before I became her manager. Her family had invested in the record company. She signed a traditional deal. And then as the label starts making back money, you get a percentage of your masters back. So Scott Borchetta physically owned those masters. They belonged to him, even though it's her voice and, you know, the songs that she wrote, she owned the publishing. No one stole her songs from her. It was just those physical master recordings he owned. Scooter, when Scott decided to sell Big Machine Records, it came with her catalog of music. You see people now are buying up catalogs of music of, you know, legacy bands and things like that. So he had the rights to sell to whoever he wanted to, and that's who made the investment to buy it. There was just some bad blood, no pun intended, between Taylor and Scooter, and that's their business. That's not my business. There was some bad blood between the two, and it spilled over into the media. And because she has the bigger microphone and the louder voice, the fans thought that these two guys, that she signed a bad deal, that the big bad, no, it's the same exact deal unless you come to a label with music that you've already paid for and recorded. I'll give you a real good example. Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll paid for his music, was already making $3 million, was already had 1 million monthly listeners streaming his songs 6 times each a month. He showed up with a business. There wasn't risk involved to whoever wanted to partner with him. So he was then able to license his music to the record company. When Taylor signed her new deal with Universal, she structured it that she would own her masters from day one.
Yeah.
That now has changed the music industry. So thank you, Taylor Swift. Now artists who are coming to the table with some traction, already showing that they're a viable business, they're now able to structure more favorable record deals. Some of them are doing licensing deals. She brought attention to something that I felt was broke, because the way that the record company and the deals worked was that if it's an 85-15 deal, which means for every dollar, the record company gets 85 cents, the artist gets 15 cents. The artist then has to pay back every dollar that the record company put into it, but they're only able to pay it back from their 15 cents. So it's like a really bad loan. So that I don't agree. I think that it needs to be structured much different. But also, too, I also understand business is the person who's putting up the money and putting up the risk should get the bigger piece of the pie until everybody is recouped from what they invested. And then you split it appropriately based on whatever negotiation that you want to have. But she has now opened up a conversation that other artists get to come in and say, because there's a lot of artists that will sign anything. They just want to stay there with a record company. You know, if you sign a bad deal, that's on your attorney. That's not on the record company. The record company presents a deal. It's up to you whether you want it or renegotiate it or whatever. But no one's forcing anyone to sign a record deal. Today, you can pay for your own songs. You can distribute your own songs. You can upload your own songs. You can advertise your own songs. You can hire a PR person. All these things that a record company can do for you, every independent artist has the ability to do it if they're willing to fund it. But if you want somebody else to take the risk and put up the money, be prepared that they're going to write the best deal for them to kind of try to make sure that they get their money back, because most artists never recoup what's put into them. The labels write that off as a loss.
Yeah. You summarized this very well, in my opinion. I think that record labels, I liken them to venture capitalists. They don't know who will succeed in the end. Nobody knows. It's very hard. So what they do is that they invest a little bit of money in a lot of artists, and because Universal and Sony are huge conglomerates, as you mentioned, a little bit of money could be quite a bit of money, but to them it's not that much money. But to you and me, or especially for me at least, it's a lot of money. And then they see who wins, and then they have to make back all the losses from that one horse that won the race. And I agree with you. The way I think that when I'm talking to friends that are artists and in this culture space, they feel like I'm a cynic and that I'm a capitalist and that I'm a. But I think
who doesn't want to make money? That's all capitalism is, and the market dictates. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to play by the rules that are you can try to change the rules. It's your you can do that.
Your choice.
And
you sign it or you don't sign it. You fund it or you don't fund it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Scooter Braun got I don't know what is the bad blood between them. Could you? It seems like you know something that
people can go look it up. It's like he managed Kanye. All that stuff went down with Kanye. He used to manage Justin Bieber. It's just it's between them. Whatever it was, it's between them. And he chose to buy something. She got upset that he bought it. She was free to say how she felt. He was free to say why he did whatever he did. That's completely between them. But like I said, when she has the loudest microphone, which is her social media, and she says, this is what these guys did to me, that's what everyone goes behind. And that's what everyone listens to. And she is as entitled as anyone else to say how she feels, because what I tell people is an opinion is 100% correct because it belongs to the person who has it.
Yeah.
And then it's up to other people to do their own research. Like I said, I think that the part that bothered me the most was I know the relationship that Scott and Taylor had in the beginning. And I know that had he not given her the opportunity to write her own songs and release her own music, we may or may not have the Taylor Swift that we have today, because no one else was giving her that opportunity in this town of Nashville. He's the only one who gave her that opportunity. And then she went out and made his label the biggest label it could be. And the only reason that somebody like Scooter wanted to buy it was because of how big Taylor helped make it. So they were perfect for each other at that time. And then just like with a lot of relationships, they went their separate ways. And it's unfortunate, but we have Taylor Swift today because Taylor said, I'm not going to sign with a big label that's not going to let me write my records. And she found somebody that says, I believe in you as enough as a songwriter and an artist, and I see your vision to allow you to do that, where there was no precedent for somebody to do that, because all the young artists that had success, the Billy Gilmans, the Leanne Rimes, they weren't writing their own music. He believed in her and saw in her something that nobody else saw.
And the key thing there, he was willing to fund it.
Correct.
And I think, again, back to the deal. But something that I've thought a bit about is the narrative of Taylor Swift being this knight in shining armor here to take down the machine. Mm-hmm. And I would argue that Taylor Swift, she's the biggest machine the music industry has ever seen.
I do not disagree.
She's the very thing she claims to hate and to take down. She is that very thing.
Well, I don't know that she's not signing artists and doing all the stuff that a record label does, but she is the most powerful voice in the world right now. She just released her movie. She didn't have to go through a production company. She paid for her own movie. She owns the rights to that movie, and she licensed it to the movie theaters. And that pissed off a lot of people in Hollywood, because a lot of the big production companies are like, wait, that's not the way that it works. You're supposed to come through us and we'll go. No, her family, they sat down as a team, the members of her team, and said, why don't we just go direct to AMC? Why do we need to go through Paramount? Why do we need? And then they sold it to Disney. They went direct to Disney. They are making moves that's readily available to everyone else in the world to make. She just happens to have the clout to be able to get it done. That's the difference.
Also, I think she released her book, and she didn't even. I think she skipped all stores. I think no Amazon,
they bought it right from her
bricks and
website.
mortar store.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Straight to the customer.
absolutely.
Which
Direct
is
to consumer.
I love
Smart.
that. Yeah.
It's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very smart. She's very brilliant. Some people will take offense to that. Some people can, once again, it's their opinion. They're entitled to have it. But look at the scoreboard. Look at her fans are rooting for her to be a billionaire and rooted for her to be a billionaire. When does that ever happen?
No, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
It's like she's got the most expensive ticket that's out there. Her fans were okay with that. They were rooting for her to be the biggest, most powerful. That doesn't happen, but it happens with her.
So she has hacked it though, yeah, because so and isn't this also again something else I've been thinking about is that I think us humans, we have a tendency to accept cynics and machines if there's faces, if there's names to it. But if it's like a universal, I don't want Universal to have my money.
Right.
But I want Taylor Swift, maybe, or someone else I'm a fan of.
Right.
Again, back to what you said in the beginning, because of the connection and the community. So maybe there's something there that I think we will see the biggest companies in the world in 50 years or 30 years even might not be Microsoft.
Right.
It could be Taylor Swift or another like a brand that is directly connected to a person and ideally bears the name of that person.
Sure.
And the distinction between where does the person start and the brand start, like that is a
Think back to Nike and Michael Jordan. Nike was just Nike, and then Michael Jordan came along, and you had the Jordans. People weren't buying Nikes; they were buying Air Jordans
exactly
that just happened to have a Nike swoosh on it. I think you're correct. It's like when you can put a face to something, when you can put a connection to something, different kind of relationship.
and the more authentic, because you still see to this day people trying, like being an influencer, and it's like I want to have my own shoe, but like why do I have a shoe? Like that you don't run, you don't jump, you don't. But when Michael Jordan has a shoe,
That's right.
he is like you need that authentic match, and with Taylor Swift, like, again, when Taylor Swift is selling a documentary about her life or her journey to writing, it's of course the perfect match.
There you go.
Yeah. That's where do you think Taylor will go in the next 10 to 20 years? Like
Wherever
like,
she
the
wants.
sky's the limit.
Wherever she wants.
Yeah, but do you think she will go into politics or something? You knew her.
I don't
quite
know.
well.
And remember, I knew a 16, 17, and 18-year-old Taylor. She's now 36 or about to turn 36. So she can do whatever it is that she wants to do. She can quit whenever it is that she wants to quit. She can keep writing songs and her audience will keep buying her songs. She's about to be married. Maybe she'll decide she wants to be a mom. I hope so. She's great with kids. I don't know what it would be like to have to live the life of being Taylor and Kelsey's kid, but I think that, she can do whatever it is that she wants to do. If she decides to run for office, congratulations to her. If she decides to back politicians because she believes in what they believe in, good for her. She's entitled to do what anybody else is entitled to do. I just know that whatever it is that she decides to do and continues to do, she's going to be great at it.
Yeah, I remember when the U.S. were holding their breath to figure out which candidate Taylor Swift was going to support.
Yeah.
That was
And her candidate didn't win.
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
People forget sometimes. They're like, well, she could do it. Her candidate didn't win. You know, she was encouraging people to vote. Voter signups went way up when she got involved in politics. So we got more people being active in the process that we have here in the United States. But the two candidates that she was, you know, one she was endorsing and one she was going against didn't win. Or the one in Tennessee that started this whole thing ended up keeping her seat. And the president candidate that she wanted didn't win. So it's like, she's got a voice, but it wasn't as influential enough to sway that vote, but it did get more people out to vote. And I thought that was exciting.
I think it's more telling about how bad the campaign for the Democrats was going at that time.
But that's not me. You said it. He's from Norway. He's not. But I know exactly what you're saying, and you're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Okay, but if we've talked about a lot of stuff in this conversation already, and I think it's been inspiring to a lot of people. But if you had to be very concrete, the world is different. We've said that several times in this conversation. So back in 2006, the way to build a community and the way to succeed was different. If you were to launch an artist today, like, how would you do it?
First, you would have to put a plan together. You need a blueprint, and you need to understand what your goals are and what you want to accomplish. Then you need to understand the rules of whatever game you wanted to go into. If you want to get a label, great. What are the rules? What are the labels looking for? What do I need to show to them to be attractive to a label? If you want to build a worldwide audience, then you're going to probably have to succumb to the fact that social media is the easiest and fastest way to find people throughout the world. You're going to need to treat it like a business if you want business results. If you just want to be a hobbyist, please keep making music because you love making music, but don't get on social media and bitch about the fact that nobody's buying your music, no one's coming to your shows, no one's sharing your stuff. If you want it to be a business, treat it like a business. Use the tools. Don't shy away from technology. Technology is speed. You know, an email is speed. A car is speed. A text is speed. You know, having a mobile phone is speed. Use the technology for how the technology was designed. And I also say this, find your people. A lot of people still think that everyone's going to love their music. Everyone's not going to love your music. Everyone doesn't like the same food. Find your people, love on your people, make them feel seen in your community. And if you go, I always tell artists this, if you can go find 1,000 people in the world that'll spend $50 a year with you, you're making $50,000 a year doing what you love, when most people go to a job making less doing what they hate. And if you need more money, get more people. If you need more money than that, sell more stuff, you know, but it's like, don't be that person that blames everyone else for you not having success. Take ownership of the fact that it's your business. Treat it like a business. No one's going to care as much about your business as you do. And if you have to use someone else's money or someone else's knowledge or someone else's time, there's a cost for that. And it may not be that you physically have to pay them, but they're going to structure a deal where they get their money back, you know, and be okay with that. If you go use your own credit cards, go take out your own loans, record your own music, show the world that it's working, and then go to a label and say, hey, I've taken it from 0 to 80. Come throw gasoline on my fire. The record companies, in my opinion, the managers, the booking agents, they're looking to acquire small businesses that are already showing progress, not potential. No one's investing in potential anymore. They're investing in progress because all the tools are out there for you to show people that you're legit. I had someone DM me the other day and say, Rick, I'm a star. I said, stars don't have to tell people they're stars.
Yes. Yeah.
They show me they're a star. They don't tell me they're a star. I can see that they're a star.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, it was a great summary, and if people want to learn more, and if people want to get like you're very general in the conversation like this, and if people want to know the specifics in regards to their career, how can they?
They can
reach you?
just go to rickbarker.com, my website. I also just released a book called Music Business for Parents. My goal in this second stage of my life is to equip the parents and the artists so that they're not signing bad deals, so that they are maintaining as much ownership as they possibly can, so that they are building a business that other people want to invest in. I always tell people this: if you go to a label, you're an employee. And employees have zero decision-making power when it comes to the running of the business. If a label comes to you, you're now a partner. So my goal is to help people become viable partners that other people ultimately want to partner with and invest in and create more win-win opportunities where everyone feels that no one was taken advantage of. And the only way to do that is by bringing something to the table and not just, hey, I'm a great singer. I have talent. Talent is expected. It's not a differentiator anymore. There's so much talent that's out there. Bring something of value to the table, whether it be an audience, whether it be you're already making money, whatever it is, bring something of value to the table and you'll be in a much better negotiating power. And my goal is to help artists be that now so that they're not 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds going, man, I wish I would have met this Rick Barker guy 20 years ago. It's like, no, you can meet me today. And how am I doing that? I'm running ads. I'm running Instagram posts. I'm providing hopefully value. If someone decides to come look me up because they saw me on this with you, I've earned the right to now have a second date with them. This was just the first date. They can go, okay, he's pretty straight up. I like that. I tell people I'm like sushi. I'm not for everyone. I'm an acquired taste. But if you want someone who's going to show you the work that needs to be done, give you the fastest way to get that work done, I'm your guy. If you're looking to be famous, I can't do that. There's no way to do that.
You can help them on the way there, though.
Well, it depends. Some people are famous for the wrong reasons. If they want to have and learn how to run a successful business, I can help them. If they think that it's easy, I'm not their guy.
This has been a blast.
I appreciate it.
It's been great.
Yeah, I appreciate you.